I always thought it was hard to explain what it was like living in my parents' house in Cedar Falls, a small town in the middle of Iowa. I grew up hearing that family is family no matter what, but in reality, I felt more like a forgotten accessory sitting in the corner of the living room. I was only 17 when I finally started to realize how much that place was shaping me in a twisted way. My older sister, 2 years ahead of me, had always been treated as if she were made of fine porcelain. I still don't know where that pedestal came from. Maybe because she always knew how to impose herself. Maybe because my parents were always afraid of her tantrums. Maybe because it was easier to teach me to give in than it was to teach her how to have limits. When I was younger, I remember sitting on the front steps watching my sister get a brand new purple bike while I was given a used doll. Back then, I didn't have the words to explain it. Today, I just think that was the beginning. The house we lived in had that typical American layout. Big living room, open kitchen, and a narrow hallway leading to the bedrooms. My bedroom was the farthest one, near the bathroom. Hers was the biggest, with a window facing the backyard. Even so, she was always coming into mine. Sometimes I'd wake up to her messing with my things, saying she was organizing, but really she was looking for something to claim as hers. And if I complained, my parents came with that speech about, "Don't make a mountain out of a molehill." She talked loud, slammed doors, shoved whenever she wanted something. Deep down, I think I came from an unwanted pregnancy. They wanted a boy at the time. I would study until exhaustion, get high grades, do everything right, hoping that one day they would look at me the way they looked at her. It never happened. I remember once, I was about 12, coming home from school with a merit certificate. I spent the entire walk imagining my mother saying, "I'm proud of you." When I arrived, I found her and my father trying to calm my sister, who was crying because she had lost a volleyball game. I held the certificate in my hand for more than an hour. No one asked what it was. I ended up putting it in a drawer and pretending I didn't care. Whenever I dared express my discomfort, my parents responded with frightening stories, saying that kids who complained too much ended up sent to temporary care homes, where I would be alone and regretful. I was too young to understand it was manipulation. I just felt scared. In the last few years, I had developed a strange habit, observing the house as if I were a visitor. The truth is, I think I already knew, deep down, that that house wasn't mine, that I was just occupying space, and it was in that atmosphere that everything inside me started to shift. It was the week of my class's prom, one of those events the whole school spends months talking about, the kind everyone says, "You'll remember for the rest of your life." I pretended not to care that much, but deep down, of course I did. I had worked the whole summer mowing lawns and pet-sitting in the neighborhood so I could buy my own dress. A simple dress, but pretty. A dress that was mine. The only thing in years that I could say hadn't been handed down from my older sister. I had planned every detail. My hair pulled back in a way that wouldn't draw too much attention. Light makeup, comfortable shoes. I looked at myself in the mirror and tried to believe I deserved to be happy, that I could have a normal night, without anyone ruining anything. I left the dress hanging on the closet door so it wouldn't wrinkle. I looked at it several times before going to school, like someone looking at a reminder that something, at least something, might go right. But nothing in my life was ever that simple. My older sister had spent the whole week asking where I was buying my dress, what color it was, whether I was going alone, whether someone was picking me up. It was that misplaced interest I already knew so well. At first, I tried to ignore it, but on the day of the prom, around 4 in the afternoon, she walked into my room without knocking, like always, and stood there staring at the dress. "Is this it?" she asked, pulling at the fabric between her fingers as if she were evaluating its quality. "Yeah," I answered, trying to keep my voice neutral. She gave a short smile, a smile that didn't say anything, but also said everything. "It would look better on me." I felt my stomach freeze. I already knew that tone. I tried changing the subject, tried pretending I hadn't heard, but she repeated it, louder this time, calling our parents from the hallway. When they appeared in the doorway, she had already started pretending she was hurt. It was unbelievable how she did that. The drooping face, the short breaths, like she was trying not to cry. "Mom, Dad," she began. "I thought you were going to help me pick something for tonight, but the outfit I had doesn't fit. I feel awful. And she pointed at me. She has this perfect dress and doesn't even care." I wanted to scream. I wanted to say it wasn't true, that she had other clothes, that she always managed to turn anything into drama. But my parents exchanged that look that always came right before a decision where I was the disposable part. "Sweetheart, you know how sensitive your sister is," my father said, using that voice I hated. Soft, gentle, but never for me. "Maybe you could lend it to her just this once. It's my prom. I worked all summer for that dress. Do you want to make your sister cry? My mother cut in. You know how she gets. You handle things better. That sentence, God. You handle things better. I'd been hearing that since I was a kid. My sister, realizing she had already won, ran her hand over the dress again like it was already hers. I promise I'll give it back later, she said, with that fake sweet tone that only appeared when she got what she wanted. I still tried to argue. I said it was unfair, that it was my night, that I had already made plans with my friend to take pictures at the town park at 5. But my parents were firm in a way they never were with her. They took the dress out of my hands. They didn't ask. They took it. While my sister locked herself in the bathroom to do her makeup wearing my dress, I sat on my bed. When she finally opened the door and came out all dressed up, spinning like she was on a runway, my parents showered her with compliments like she was the most beautiful thing they had ever seen. No one looked at me. No one asked how I was doing. No one noticed that I was fighting hard not to cry. They left for the prom around 7, and I stayed alone, listening to the sound of the door closing. I went to the mirror. The makeup I had done earlier was still perfect, because I had spent almost the whole morning watching tutorial videos to get it right, and now it all felt like a badly told joke. I had prepared everything: hair, foundation, light eyeshadow, subtle lipstick, and none of it mattered anymore. I washed my face just so I wouldn't have to look at the wasted effort. When the living room clock hit 9, 2 hours after they had left, I still hadn't eaten anything. My stomach rejected everything. I fell asleep very late, and the next day my mother and father didn't say a single word about my absence at the prom. Not a, "How are you?" Not a "sorry." Nothing. They just praised my older sister, who kept telling and retelling how perfect the night had been. I listened from the kitchen, trying to eat cereal. I thought about saying something, but I was too afraid. 2 days later, I got an unexpected call. It was my grandmother on my father's side. She asked why I hadn't sent any pictures from the prom. I couldn't lie. She went silent for a few seconds, the kind of silence where someone takes a deep breath not to explode, and then she said she wanted to see me. I froze. I begged her, really begged her not to talk to my parents. I knew what would happen if they found out I had said anything, but she only said she was picking me up for lunch. That day, she took me to a small restaurant near downtown. As soon as we sat down, she held my hand and asked, "What did they do to you?" I felt like crying, but I held it in, held it tight. But then at some point, I couldn't anymore. I didn't tell her everything, not right then, but I told her enough for her to understand. After lunch, she surprised me again. She said she wanted to give me something that was just mine. I was confused, but I agreed to go with her to an electronics store. There, she handed me a big, heavy box. When I opened it, it was a brand new laptop, shiny, something I never imagined I'd have. I almost refused it, really. The idea of having something that nice felt wrong, even dangerous. I knew my older sister would hate it. I knew my parents would too. But my grandmother looked at me and said, "Sweetheart, this is for you to build your life. You deserve to have something of your own." I remember the feeling, a mix of gratitude and fear, mostly fear of what would happen when I got home, and I was right to be afraid. When I got back home, the moment I stepped through the door, my older sister saw the box in my hand. Her face changed instantly. You could see the fury rising. My parents came right after, and the story repeated itself, only now it was worse. They said I had to give the laptop to her, that it wasn't fair for only me to get a present, that I should share, as if I hadn't spent my entire life giving away everything that was mine. I can't explain why, but this time I said no, a full, solid no, and the look on their faces, I'll never forget it. That was when the other war started, the one I wasn't willing to lose anymore. In the days that followed, I tried acting normal, but something in the air had changed. I don't know if it was the looks, the whispering, or simply the fact that I now had something that was mine, something they couldn't control. The laptop stayed hidden inside my closet. My mother watched me with that thin smile, the kind people use when they're holding back criticism. My father asked short questions, trying to sound neutral, but his tone always exposed irritation. And my older sister, she only stared at me. A hard, direct stare, like she was waiting for the right moment to rip something away from me. On Wednesday night, around 10, she knocked on my bedroom door. Not hard, but insistently. "I came to take a look at that laptop," she said from the other side. "I just want to see the color." I froze. I didn't answer. I pretended I was asleep. She tried turning the doorknob, but I had locked it from the inside. "Seriously?" she asked, laughing. "You locked it? Why? How long are you planning to hide that thing?" I stayed silent. After a few seconds, She gave up and walked away down the hall, but the feeling that she was watching me lingered. The next morning, my parents finally talked openly about it. I was at breakfast, stirring my cereal with the spoon, when my mother said, "Your sister said you treated her badly last night, that you're being selfish." My father added, "That laptop isn't fair. You know she was expecting a gift too. It's not right for you to keep something only for yourself." I felt that heavy anger rising quickly. She always had everything. Everything. I'm not giving this up. It was like dropping a bomb. My mother stiffened. My father frowned. "You're going to hand it over," he said, like even he wasn't used to hearing me say no. "No," I repeated, firmer this time, even though my hands were shaking. They exchanged that look they always used when deciding how to handle me, as if I were a problem and they were choosing the least troublesome solution. "If you keep this attitude, we'll take your phone away," my mother said. "And suspend your outings," my father added. I felt like laughing, not because it was funny, but because suddenly everything seemed so predictable, so repetitive, so old. They only had two modes, pleasing my sister or punishing me. When I got home from school and went up to my bedroom, I closed the door and turned on the laptop for the first time. I felt like I was touching something that didn't belong to their domain, something that was mine, just mine. My sister texted me, "So you think you're special now? Everyone here knows you only got that because Grandma pities you. You should be ashamed." I didn't answer, but every notification felt like a painful poke. By late afternoon, I heard my parents arguing quietly in the living room. I couldn't understand everything, but I heard my name several times. Stubborn, disrespectful, Grandma's influence. We need to set limits. I went back to my bedroom and locked the door again. I found myself thinking about running away. Not forever, not really. Just leaving that house for a while, breathing. And at the same time, I caught myself thinking, what if they're right? What if I really am selfish? And then, the next morning, everything started to truly change. Update 1. It happened out of nowhere, with no warning. I was walking home from school when I saw my grandmother's car parked in front of our house. She was sitting in the garden chair, arms crossed, staring at the door like someone who already knows they're about to have a hard conversation. My heart started racing. I felt afraid because if she was there like that, something big was about to happen. I opened the gate slowly. My grandmother stood up, looked straight at me, and without even asking how I was doing, she said, "We need to talk. Now." And I knew, in that instant, that the rupture I'd been avoiding since childhood was about to explode with full force. When my grandmother called me like that, firm, direct, no sugarcoating, she wasn't someone who raised her voice or created chaos for no reason. She asked to go inside the house, but I said I preferred she didn't. So she gestured toward the car, like she had already expected that answer. We got in, and she turned to me, took a deep breath, and spoke slowly, like she was holding back her own anger. "I want you to tell me everything. I already know something is very wrong in that house." I started denying it. "It's nothing. I don't want to cause trouble." My grandmother just watched me in silence, just watching. And before I knew it, I was crying, and I started venting. I talked about the dress, about the prom, about how they pulled the dress out of my hands even though they knew I didn't have another. I talked about my sister's screaming, the way she looked at me like I was something blocking her path. I talked about the threats, the times she shoved me, the excuses my parents always had ready. I told her about when I was little, and my mother said that if I complained too much, they'd send me to a foster home. My grandmother interrupted me only once to ask, "Do they hit you?" I didn't answer right away. My silence was enough. She inhaled deeply. "You're never staying alone with them again," she said. "Never again." The conversation lasted a long time. I don't know how long, maybe more than an hour. I told her things I thought I'd never have the courage to say out loud, and my grandmother listened, without doubting, without minimizing, without asking me to see things from their side. "My dear," she said, "this is abuse, this is neglect, and this ends now." She took me to get a coffee nearby. Then she said she was taking me to get my things. She said I would not sleep in that house again, and for the first time in my life, I believed someone was truly on my side. I had no idea how bad the return home would be. I had no idea about the storm about to erupt. I knew that house would never be the same after what I'd told her. My grandmother parked in front of the garage. She placed her hand on my arm and said in a low but firm tone, "I'm here. They're not laying a hand on you." When we reached the door, she knocked twice. My mother opened. Her face was pale, her eyes wide, like she had been caught doing something forbidden. "Oh, Mom, I didn't know you were coming," she said, her voice trembling. My grandmother walked right past her without answering. I followed her. When we entered the living room, I saw my father standing beside the table with his phone in hand. He looked irritated but was trying to maintain artificial composure, that posture he used when he wanted to look reasonable in front of others. Before anyone could say anything, my grandmother turned to him and said, "I came to get her things." My mother looked at me like I had betrayed the entire family. My older sister appeared. The look on her face, it wasn't just anger. It was something worse. A mix of hatred, frustration, humiliation, and that old, almost sick resentment she had always carried toward me. She looked at my grandmother first, then turned toward me. "So this is it? You came to make up stories? You came to play the victim?" My grandmother stepped forward. "Don't you talk to her like that," she said, "and keep your distance." My sister laughed. "Distance? She's the one who should stay away. She's the problem. She always has been." With each word, she stepped closer. My grandmother tried blocking her path, but it was useless. My sister walked around the table and came straight toward me, like she was being pulled by pure rage. She reached me so fast I didn't even have time to lift my hands. I felt the yank first, sharp, violent, right at the roots of my hair, and my body was thrown backward. The impact came right after, a blow to my face that left me dizzy. My sister kept shouting things I couldn't even understand. My parents ran into the room, but not to break it up, to calm her down. It was only when my sister lifted her hand again, eyes wide, almost out of control, that my grandmother stepped in, pushing me behind her with her arms outstretched. "Enough!" my grandmother shouted. My father grabbed my sister by the arm. My mother tried soothing her, saying things like, "It wasn't that serious. She's just upset." My grandmother didn't listen to any of it. "We're leaving. Now," she said. "Get your things. Only the essentials." I went up the stairs shaking. I walked into my room with trembling hands, trying to shove clothes into my backpack without thinking about what had just happened. There was blood in my mouth. While I packed, I could hear yelling downstairs. My grandmother arguing with my parents, demanding explanations, her voice sharp and furious. And somewhere in the middle of it, my sister's voice, enraged, repeating that I had ruined everything. I came down with the backpack on my shoulders. My grandmother was at the door, waiting. My father stepped in front of us. "You can't take her like this," he said. "She's being dramatic. She always does this." My grandmother looked straight at him. "Don't you dare blame her for what you've allowed for years," she said. "If you try to stop us, I'll call the police right now." My sister stared at me with silent hatred, eyes wide and burning. It was the last time I saw her looking at me that way, before everything changed for good. Update 2. At the hospital that same night, when the nurse photographed my injuries for the report, I realized just how big the line was that had been crossed. There was no going back anymore. The officer who spoke with me said it was serious, very serious, especially because I was a minor. And when my grandmother looked at me, she said something I'll never forget. "From now on, you're safe." That night in the hospital stayed burned into my mind. Every time I blinked, I felt a deep throb near my nose. My grandmother stayed with me the whole time. She answered the nurses' questions, spoke with the doctors, and every time someone mentioned that it wasn't a minor injury, I could see the anger building in her expression. A police officer approached around 11. A woman in her early 30s, serious expression. She called me by my first name, asked if I felt able to talk. The interview was hard. Talking about what had happened hurt more than the bruise on my face. After writing everything down, the officer put her notepad away and said, "This won't go unpunished. We're already sending a team to speak with your parents." My grandmother placed her hand on my back and whispered, "You didn't do anything wrong." We stayed at the hospital until morning, when they finally discharged me with painkillers and instructions. My face still hurt. In the car, my grandmother told me I would be living with her from that day on. The following days were chaos. Calls, messages, visits from officials. The police filed a formal charge against my older sister for assault, and because I was a minor, Child Protective Services got involved, wanting to understand the extent of my parents' negligence. But my parents did not take it well. Soon enough, they started texting me. At first, long, aggressive messages saying I had ruined the family, that I was ungrateful, that I had exaggerated everything to look like a victim. They accused me of being manipulated by my grandmother. My father sent a voice message, one of those he recorded pacing around the house, saying I had destroyed their reputation in the community. I listened to half of it and stopped. His voice made me nauseous. After 2 days, the tone changed. Then came apologies, requests to talk, attempts to show regret, promises that everything would be different, that your sister is going through a difficult time, that, you know, we love you. I ignored everything. My grandmother insisted I start therapy. The first sessions were painful. I felt like an open wound being touched, but I also felt understood. My grandmother cooked simple meals and never knocked on the door without warning. Small things, but they felt like miracles for someone who had spent years walking on eggshells. The laptop she had given me became my study companion. Little by little, I managed to return to school, even though I still felt the throbbing in my face. Some classmates asked questions, others pretended not to notice. I didn't have the energy to explain anything. Meanwhile, the legal process moved forward. My older sister was arrested. My parents faced serious charges. The entire extended family found out, and for the first time, I wasn't the one blamed. Only weeks later did I realize something that stunned me in a quiet, heavy way. I didn't miss the house I grew up in. Not even a little. Time passed strangely after all of that. I threw myself into my studies as if that were my secret way of getting revenge on the past. I wanted to leave Cedar Falls. I wanted to be far away from my own family. I applied to several universities with my heart racing, imagining everything, including failure. But when the acceptance email finally arrived, I was going to a good university in another state, with its own dorms and a whole life I didn't know yet. My grandmother cried when she read the letter, not out of sadness. The move wasn't easy. The 4-hour drive to the university made me nervous and excited at the same time. When I stepped into the dorm room for the first time, I felt a chill that tasted like freedom. The girl who would live in the room next door offered to help me carry my bags, and that's when I realized I had forgotten what it felt like to be treated kindly. The first months were strange. My parents, of course, tried contacting me. First came long messages, full of regret and selectively edited memories. Messages like, "We miss you. You've always been important to us. We don't want to lose you." But every sentence made it obvious that their remorse came from the social and legal consequences, not from any real awareness. I blocked their number. It was easier than I expected. But my older sister, she didn't stay quiet. Even after serving her sentence and being released, she couldn't accept that I was living well, far away from her. And one day, while I was on campus, I got a call from my grandmother. "She showed up here," my grandmother said. "She wanted to know about you. She wanted to talk." When I told her you weren't living here anymore, she completely lost control. I asked if anything had happened, and my grandmother paused for a long moment. "She hit me." "What?" I whispered. "I already filed the report," my grandmother said. "She was arrested again, and this time for longer." I spent the whole night awake, lying in my dorm bed, feeling guilty even though I knew none of it was my fault. The legal process against my parents ended with heavy fines and a reputation ruined in the community. They didn't go to jail, but they lost almost everything they used to parade around as symbols of being a good family. The community no longer looked at them the same way. The extended family, once distant, now knew everything and pulled away from them. They tried for a while to make it seem like they were victims of some injustice, but no one believed it. Not after all the evidence, not after what happened to me. They tried contacting me a few times, even recently. As for my older sister, I wish I could say she changed. I wish I could say prison did something. But the truth is I don't know. And honestly, I don't want to know. She's serving a longer sentence now after attacking my grandmother. And that's on her, not me. I have a protective order keeping her away, and that's enough. And as for me, I'm rebuilding things. Slowly. With therapy. With good days and bad days. With scars that don't show on the outside, but that have learned how to hurt less than they used to.